my mother's costume from Singing in the Rain. This is the lavender costume, blue and lavender costume from the You Were Meant for Me number. It was also used before that as well. But that costume has been in our collection since the MGM days. And it was always very fragile, not in great shape, got used a lot. In fact, if you think about it like this, if you're familiar with the movie, it gets used in a Beautiful Girls number. There's use of it in several scenes along the way. Now, when you have a costume that's used a lot in the movie, it's not unusual to have the wardrobe department make 2 or more, depending upon what's happening. It's rare, though, because it's like in the movie where somebody might get wet. My mother did in the movie the second time around. Carrie and I are on the set. There's a funny black and white picture of us seeing her face down in the mud. So they made 2 of those, not including the stunt woman's costume. So that costume had 3 of one particular costume, but it was because she was going to get wet and dirty, and they had to quickly do a turnaround. So same thing with Julie Andrews, The Sound of Music, a couple of places where she gets wet, and there's a scene where there were 2 costumes for that. So I've seen this along my experience journey in costume collecting. And you want to, remember we talked a few weeks ago about the ruby slippers and how inside the label, the studio had penned in numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, indicating that there were that many of those particular shoes used for the production or made for the production. Whether they were used or how they were used is questionable. That's part of what you have to do your research on. So anyway, we have a video that we prepared, and the video is based on something that happened recently. So a buddy of mine, Mark Selland, who has partnered with me since really 2012 auctions, 11 actually. First time we actually met face-to-face was at the NAB convention, National Broadcasting Convention here in Las Vegas. I met him and his partner back then. And, you know, he was showing interest in collectibles. He, at the time, was more of a sports collector. But anyway, to segue forward, over the years, we bought many things together. Currently, we've invested in different costumes together. So the auction was coming up for the Heritage auction. And my mother's costume was showing up in that auction, the purple outfit from Singing in the Rain. Well, I have that costume. So how and why is there another Debbie Reynolds costume from Singing in the Rain? They're advertising Debbie Reynolds costume from Singing in the Rain. It's the purple outfit from the You Were Meant for Me number. And I'm...
It is now.
And I'm thinking, wow, why are we... You know, I have that costume, so what does that mean? Well, I actually saw this costume many years ago. It came up in another profiles auction. Now, I didn't remember that it was a profiles auction. I had to look that up recently. But back in around 2018 or 17 or something, they actually had this costume come up, and I looked at it then. And I thought, well, I don't need it because we have one, but why would there be 2? It's not like that aggressive a dance number to require having 2 of these costumes. I questioned it back then. I did not buy it. Well, this time it came up and Mark said maybe we should buy that. I went back and I looked at our costume, and on the label of our costume, it said Debbie Reynolds and the production codes, C number, etc. But it had a little 2 handwritten, much like you would have seen in the ruby slippers. And that made me think, maybe there were 2 costumes made for these numbers, since the one is a dance number where the chorus is dancing, and then there's the scene out on the studio back lot, and then they go in and do the big dance number with Gene and You Were Meant for Me. So that made me think, you know what? Worst case, let's look at this thing. Let's buy it and look at it up to a certain point, right? So we buy the costume, and it arrives. And we're going to go to the video and show you Mark and I the day it arrived and the process that we went through to sort of understand what this costume is based on the setup that I just gave you. So here we go. Okay, here we are in the archive room at Las Vegas. It's also the library, and this is the only big table we have for showing things. So we have some things to show you guys. This is Mark Selland. He's been on the show a couple times. He's a partner of mine in a lot of areas. And in this case, we just bought a couple of costumes and we partnered on these. And we got it from the Heritage auction just recently. Grabbed a few cool items. And I think the most interesting one here is this dress, which was purchased as my mother's dress from Singing in the Rain as Kathy Selden. Now this is their certificate that comes with it. But the only thing is, we already have one of these dresses. And they're very, very fragile. And I mean very fragile. So I'm going to lay this here.
I'm going to just move that out of the way.
Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're going to compare these two for the first time ever since they were at MGM, assuming that this is legit. And we don't know that for sure yet. So that's partly what we're up to here. So here it is. You can see how very fragile this is. You can see also where it was repaired. Now,
this one isn't, yeah.
Now let's look at this. I've always wondered about this costume here, because over the years this has shown up in auction and I'm like, well, I don't need to buy that because we have this and we know this is legit. My mom got this from the first auction. This one keeps resurfacing and I asked myself, well, why in the world would you have a second one of these costumes? Now they are fragile, but why would you have a second one in a dance number where you're not really dancing that aggressively? You take Good Morning for an example, the little knitted outfit, we have that. There's no two costumes there and they're really going crazy in that. Somersaults and over the couch. And
right.
This is just this beautiful dance number. You know, You Were Meant for Me up and down the ladder and around the sound stage while we change the lighting. The little wind, it's not like exactly hard on the costume. So why are there two? Now, or are there two? But initially, I have to tell you, I think this looks really legit. Just without going much farther. I mean, it really does. So we bought it because I don't want many of my mom's costumes running around outside of my control. You know how that bothers me. Keeps me up at night, in fact. I have to call Mark late at night sometimes because I can't sleep about that.
Somebody help me with this, would you? Here, let me point out something to you, if I don't mind. Do you notice the sweat probably on both?
Yeah, well,
so these were both worn.
Yeah, you have DNA. Now, that's the other point. Could it have been a double?
Yeah.
Now, there's a way to check that, though. So,
okay.
Inside these costumes, and because these are so fragile, we're going to have to do everything really slow.
Yep.
So we're going to take this, we're going to undo the little hooks. This is before Velcro was invented. And, well, that's not exactly, is that true? Yeah, that is, no, it's not true. It was invented during World War II, but it didn't find its way into costumes right off the bat. We're hoping that inside this zipper, there's going to be labels. In these seams.
In the seams?
Well, that's what they normally are. Not, by the way, I haven't checked the other one, so it's like we almost should start with that one before we do this one. But you could see there's nothing
no label in this
inside.
one.
Let's just see if they're
so far
different over here. Well, let's see if they're different in some fashion.
And I usually thought they were up top.
Well, not necessarily. It depends. I mean, you see how shredded this is.
Yeah, that one it looks like it's had.
Well, it got a lot of use.
You got it. Yeah, had a lot of usage.
Up.
There we go.
Now, if that doesn't have that, it would make us very. There's been. You see, the label was there and it's gone.
There's something that was there. Yeah.
Okay, come over here now. Look at this. So why is that label not there?
Well, it could have been a double, like you said.
Well, so then the size becomes, the next point of interest would be the size.
What is this production book? Tell me what this is.
This has a list of all the codes, U.S. production codes. So these are, every movie has been assigned a code number within the studio. Each studio assigned codes to every movie.
Okay.
So we're about to check that. A lot of people don't know how these codes
I would agree with that.
You're going to do this for me right now. So I'm going down the list, and there's Singing in the Rain, 1952. That's the release date. But the code is 1546. So tell me what that says on that label. Oh.
God, are you kidding me? Okay. 1546.
Okay.
And then after that is 8624. Does that mean something?
Probably has something to do with the scene number.
8624.
Okay, there's 86. Now the parenthetical information says car pulls up, in it are Cosmore, Don, and Kathy. So the three of them together. Pull over, Henry. They get out. And then, so this could be interesting because she could be easily wearing this outfit. We have to almost go to that scene
right there
and take a look at in the movie.
Right.
Might be wearing. But
it's the other way. There you go.
Now this is early on when he finds her again, he's been missing her for a while, and he finds her doing this dance number in the, where she's been working on the lot. That's the dress there. So now I'm starting to think about this, and it starts to make a lot more sense, because there are many numbers that this dress appears in. So making a second one, there it is again. Now this is where they take the walk after they re-meet on the soundstage.
He's wearing the same costume.
So there was a number in this movie called Beautiful Girls, and it's with some crooner, and they're singing, and she's just an extra, a chorus girl. Beautiful girls, all the boys adore you. And all the girls are wearing these outfits.
Oh.
So we should take a look at that. I'm thinking there are at least 3 scenes now. There's the scene on the stage, Beautiful Girl, out on the street where he's saying, Kathy, I've been looking everywhere for you.
I haven't been able to think of anything but you ever since.
Honest?
Honest.
And then he says, come with me, and we go to the soundstage. So now they're on the soundstage together, and he sings, You Were Meant for Me. All right, I'm going to. But talk. I'm still. I mean, the good news is, I think it's legit. It is clearly made at the same time, made the same way. Everything about it is. Where the question becomes, what happened to the label? In our hands, it doesn't really matter, because this is the only place in the world you could do what we just did. I think about that. How do you do this if you don't have this costume, right? So they're looking at this costume and they're checking it against the screen as best they can. Or they look at a still picture. Well, that's nothing compared to what we were able to do here. I mean, we're able to look at this, the way that this zipper is sewn in. And you can see how nicely, the way they're matching nicely. Look at the way that and that. I mean, Same machines, same everything. So this whole thing is very legit. You can also see, though, how delicate this is. You see that? Which is why you don't see this stuff on display. This one's actually in better shape. So this might have been used more, who knows. But anyway, that's our story on the Debbie Reynolds singing in the rain costume. So back in the fold, I could sleep a little better knowing this isn't wandering around out there. All right, so that's part 1. Now, we're sitting there with those 2 costumes, and you notice how the thing that I brought up was the fact that there's no label in either costume. Well, why is got to be the question. And one possible answer is, it got lost, but the threads were there, so you could see it was removed. And they didn't even take the threads out that had stitched that label in. That made me suspicious. So one approach to this is somebody took the label out because it was one of the extras costumes from the Beautiful Girl number, which you just saw. I forgot how many girls were in there. It was like 10? 12 girls. Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway, there's a lot of girls in there, all wearing the same exact costume. So, wow. I mean, why? So you could take Thelma Jones's label out and then just leave it up to question whether that could have been Debbie's costume. So that would be somebody like a John LeBeau kind of character that would pull something like that to try to get away with it. But if it was John LeBeau, I can assure you he would have put back in an MGM label because he had them. He knew exactly how to fake it. He had access to those production codes. He could have perfectly faked it. So it's not a John LeBeau cooked up deal. So I started asking myself, well, why is that label out of there? and I came back. Was it like hours later? When did we come back with the tape measure? 2 days. Okay, so I was sleeping on it and it was bugging me. And so I came in with the flexible tailor's ruler. I said, let's compare the size of this costume to that costume. And so that's part 2. Let's do that. Okay, we have a further investigation going on after reviewing the Singing in the Rain scenes. there is a sequence where there's a chorus scene where my mom's in it. There are 12 girls in that. And this guy that's in the scene, they're all gathered around him, and we'll show you a still of that. And you could see plainly there are 12 costumes, including my mother's, in that scene that are all the same. And I believe what we have here is actually a chorus girl costume, not a Debbie costume. Now, even though they look identical in so many ways, there's a few things that would give it away. The most important thing is the waist. So I'm looking at the chorus girl costume at the moment, and we're just looking at this spot in the costume right here, which is going to take us out to about 16 inches across. Without pulling it very much, it's about 16 inches. Now you go over to the Debbie costume, which of course is the one we've had in our collection for a very long time. And you can see this is sitting at about 14 inches. And so there's 4 inches at least in the waist difference. You know that the costumers are not going to let some gal have 4 inches extra in her waist. The other thing that appears to be really obvious is the height. So you're just looking at the shoulders here, and you can see this dress is substantially longer. We're off the table here, and my mother's ends right there, and this one goes off the table and is already 4 or 5 inches here. Minimum of 6 inches of height discrepancy, maybe more. But if you look at the picture that we're showing you right now, you'll see that these girls that are standing around my mother are substantially taller. Some in the background are much taller. So the fact that this has no had a label in it, which we have shown you, but the label was removed, would indicate that maybe it was a chorus girl's costume. Someone took that label out to try to pass it off as a Debbie costume, because without the other one next to it, how would you know that that wasn't Debbie's costume without knowing her waist size and all of that? Because they are made correct. I mean, this is a match. This costume is the same fabric. This one, ours is actually not even as good a shape. They both have sweat damage under the arms. You see the sweat? Both my mother's and this one. So in so many ways, they're exactly the same. The brooch is the same, etc. So I'm just saying, I'm 99.9 that this is a chorus girl's costume from Singing in the Rain, clearly made the same as this, but no longer a Debbie costume. So that's a factor. We're going to be talking about price with the folks we got it from. Now we're done. Okay, so like on one hand, I was a little like disappointed, be the right word, because I wouldn't have minded having the second one, especially since there is a 2 in my mother's label, which means there could be another costume out there somewhere that might be the Debbie 2 costume, or maybe that's just some number for no reason that I'm aware of. Generally, though, those numbers don't get put in there for no reason. So I would just suggest there could still be a Debbie 2. We have 2, but there could be a Debbie 1. And I will say the chorus costume is of interest to me. So I did contact the auction house. And because it's me, they take me seriously. And they were like, ooh. And I explained what I just explained to all of you. And they said, well, would you still be interested in the costume? And I said, of course, a Singing in the Rain costume, even from the chorus, is still cool to me. I would love it, but not at that price. I mean, you're paying Debbie dollars for a chorus girl, not going to happen. So this is an interesting dilemma. So they said, well, we'll get back to the owner of the costume and see what they say.
So it was on consignment?
Well, they're all technically on consignment, right?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they don't buy these things and sell them. So so everything there is a consigned item. The people that put it there are obligated to provide the auction house with whatever information they have, factually speaking. The auction house, though, generally speaking, comes over the top of them. It does their own research on these items. They had no way of checking what I was able to check, but they did have a missing label, which really should have been a bit of a red flag, at least enough to make the buyers beware. Could I get the certificate from you guys? Is that sitting on the top there, Seth? So when a big company like a Profiles or a Heritage or Profiles obviously got bought out by Heritage, but Darren Julian, these are that you take the who issued the certificate is a big deal, right?
Sure.
Like if Joe Blow gives you a certificate, which I see it on eBay all the time. It comes with a certificate of authenticity. Mildred Ferguson from Des Moines issues a certificate. It doesn't mean a thing unless it's stuff that she makes that she can authenticate. Well, this is clearly a certificate from Heritage stating that is a Debbie Reynolds costume. And I think, and it even talks about the scene, "You Were Meant for Me." And there's only one person in that scene. They did not mention the Beautiful Girl number. Had they done that, it would have actually made a little more sense. So I just think you have to be very, very careful. And I don't think anybody's doing anything on purpose here. Well, obviously, when I told Heritage about this, they immediately said, well, we'll refund you the money. Would you be interested in buying it back? I said, yes. So they go to the owner who had consigned the costume, who was shocked that it was not a legitimate Debbie costume. And as it turns out, Profiles in history did sell them that. And she had paid a lot more money than what we had paid. So she didn't want to sell it for less. In fact, I think she should be negotiating with Profiles again if they want to maintain their reputation of selling legitimate things. I went back and looked at the old auction that it sold in, and once again, it had that description. So Profiles did the original investigating on that costume, sold it as a Debbie costume from that scene, and there you have it. So